So what I want to talk about in this session is, excuse me, I sneezed, but I hit the mute button quickly there. I want to talk about the requirements for road safety auditor accreditation in different jurisdictions. And I want you to understand the process for registering in Victoria and South Australia. I'll also cover Queensland and New South Wales briefly as well. Victoria and South Australia are the easiest ones to get into to start with, and they cover off also Tasmania and Northern Territory through those systems as well. And then I'll talk about legal risks associated with road safety auditing. This is also your opportunity to ask any questions you've got in general about road safety auditing, the process, administration of road safety auditing, or anything like that. But let me start with legal issues. Luke's having trouble with sound. I think it may be just Luke though. So, little disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not providing you legal advice here. I'm just telling you about some legal things that have come up and some concerns that are out there in industry and things that have been flagged before. But of course, get your own legal advice if you would like that. Okay. So I'm just splitting this very simply into two parts. One is you as a road safety auditor and what are some of the legal risks. And then if you are in a road authority or you're somebody that is purchasing a road safety audit, what are some of the risks? So as a road safety auditor, the first one there is client focused. And that simply means that if you are adjusting your audit based on your client's needs, not specifically being road safety focused, that could be an issue. I'll give you a very sort of clear, vivid example. Imagine a new big hardware chain is coming into the Australian market, and they deploy, they're building all these big warehouses with access onto the public road network, and the road authorities are requiring them to do road safety audits. And they ask you to do a road safety audit, and they say, hey, there's lots of these to come. Just don't cause us any trouble, no issues. And if you entertain that and you dampen your road safety audit report associated, you could be in trouble. If you get an inadequate brief and you don't ask for any other information, if you don't get the full design set and it's a detailed design audit, or you don't get information you need and you don't ask for it, that could be an issue. You may ask for it and they say, we don't have that. And then you've done your job and you'll make assumptions. Misleading your qualifications or experience, not following the correct process, so daytime, nighttime inspection, visiting the site, and following any quality management system processes you have in place. Now, with that, if the client has specified, say, daytime only, then you are sort of covered as an auditor that you're doing what has been requested of you. Often you'll be asked to do an audit. Maybe they'll say just do daytime inspection, and you want to do nighttime as well, and you do that. That's okay. But it is what you are asked to do. If they just say a road safety audit in accordance with the AUSTRAD's guidelines, then you're really into the day and night and visiting the site. So unless they have specified otherwise. And then you're held to what is called a reasonable assessment. And that will just play out in court. What is reasonable? What would your peers have found? What is a reasonable process to have followed? Reasonable depth of assessment? Because you could do an audit, could take you 6 months worth of reviewing and pondering and researching and the like. I mean, that is not reasonable for a single intersection design. So reasonableness is is integrated into the legal framework. So that's for an auditor. There's some of the possible legal issues that could arise. For the customer, the road authority, the person procuring the audit, intentionally not handing over information. So not providing information or the brief in the brief or when requested. If you have things that could help the auditor identify risk and they are held back intentionally, that could be an issue. Demanding particular recommendations or recommendations get removed, that certainly could be an issue. And not doing something with the report. And when I say not doing something, not necessarily building something or changing something, but at least reporting on, yes, well, we'll do something and we'll do the recommendations, or no, we disagree with this and these are the reasons why, and we won't do anything. That is all okay. It's just got to be written down and justified. Or maybe there's just not enough funds and for that particular thing, but we like the idea, so we've put it over to this team to put into a future program of works, whatever it is. Means of prioritizing, so just that it's not ad hoc, like ad hoc when audits are done, and also ad hoc when treatments are done as a result of an audit. So what do I mean by that? Well, a lot of local governments especially are very ad hoc about when they do audits. They sort of randomly decide, oh, you know, because of maybe the project manager knows of road safety auditing and likes the process, their projects get road safety audits, but their colleague who doesn't like these or doesn't know about them or the like doesn't do them. The courts are going to be frowning on that, because one roundabout will get a road safety audit and another one won't in its design phase, and that's just, it's ad hoc. So a process there for a local controlling authority or a state controlling authority to say, we will do audits for these types of jobs at, maybe this scale of job, or all of these types of jobs will have road safety audits, or these types of roads we will audit over this period of time. And then again, being held to a reasonable process. So there are a couple of the, or there's a handful of the possible legal issues. I can talk more about that if people have particular interest, but I want to move on to be giving you a little group activity fairly soon. But do pop your questions into the chat. But one thing people have a lot of interest in usually is, well, what qualifications do I get out of this course? I mean, what can I do? And I will jump into that. Before I do, Alistair's popping a good question. Have any of these issues been raised in court cases? Yes, some of them. The biggest issues usually in court cases, and the bulk of the legal issues associated with road safety auditing, are around temporary traffic management, roadwork sites, and did the auditor follow their reasonable process? And did they inspect the site during the day and the night? Were they given the information and those sort of things? And it's usually come down to some incident has happened and everybody's starting to point fingers. And so that's the dominant one. I've done a number of cases, some while I was in the road authority, and one we were one was a coroner's investigation, a coroner's case, and we were rightly sort of slapped around the ears for the way road safety auditing was done in the jurisdiction from a process perspective, and that was rectified. And tragically, if you're in the coroner's court, it's being looked at because somebody has been killed. And yeah, so there's some interesting stuff that's played out in that, and there's been a few others. But no, it's not like for normal road safety auditing, as in road safety auditing of designs. There hasn't been a lot of legal cases played out. Okay, so back to what can you do? What qualification do you get out of this? And the first thing I want to say is you get a certificate of successful completion of this course, right? The only place you can really use that and that only as your, I suppose, ticket to do road safety audits is in New Zealand. Everywhere else, there's some sort of register that you use that certificate to get onto, okay? And I've got Victoria, Queensland, South Australia up here as what are the requirements? The first base level requirement of these jurisdictions, also New South Wales, is you have to have completed a road safety audit course that they have approved. Now, all these jurisdictions have approved this course. So as long as you successfully complete this course and get the certificate, that's the first thing you need to get on their register. Then you need to show, at least in Victoria and South Australia, you need to show that you're generally you have some experience in these. Any of road design, traffic engineering, road construction, traffic transport management, road safety engineering, crash investigation, behavioral sciences, and these. So you're, or road user behavior is an interesting one there. Now, Victoria is very, I suppose, lenient on that. It's more just a check that we've got people who are genuinely in the industry. We don't have sort of a bartender who's sort of gone through this and, well, managed to pass the course, but it's people in the industry. So they're pretty lenient on it. And from knowing who we've got on this course, everybody will get a tick for that box in Victoria at least. And then in Victoria, you don't need professional experience to start. You can be, you can go into the entry level. To go up to senior auditor, you need 5 years experience and you need to do 5 audits. So these are the 2 categories of audit. There's slight nuances and differences between jurisdictions, and I can take you through that in detail, but I want to take you fairly quickly to showing you what it is in Victoria and how to do it. But I showed you there's the levels of audit. You start at an entry-level road safety auditor qualification, accreditation. Then after a while, after 5 audits, being mentored and by some senior auditor, you are promoted up to a senior auditor. And senior auditors are the ones that need to lead the audits. So to get to a road safety auditor, you need to do this course or an equivalent approved course, and you need some experience in one of those areas. To graduate up to senior auditor status, you need that 5 years experience in one of these areas, and then you need to undertake 5 road safety audits. So in Victoria, and I do often recommend to people to start with the Victorian one because it's, to a degree, it's the easiest to get onto at a entry level road safety auditor accreditation. And that way you're an accredited road safety auditor by a government body, and that helps you then to do audits, be part of audit teams, get that experience and elevate up. So you go to vrsa.com.au, vrsa.com.au, Victorian Road Safety Auditors.com.au it stands for. And this is what you see. So you see a page with a disclaimer. And the disclaimer says, there's a big list of auditors here, and we can't guarantee any are any good. All we can guarantee you is that they have completed a course that we have approved the content of and the competency requirements and the like, and that they have shown us that they work in the field of these things. So it is a bit of buyer beware. It's like, I don't know, if you've got an engineering degree, it doesn't guarantee that you're a good engineer, it guarantees that you've passed some sort of engineering course. Okay, so there is a bit of that there still. But you click agree and continue. And then you're going to start by going, okay, I want to register as an auditor. Then you click on register as an auditor, and you're going to register as a road safety auditor. Unless you're maybe doing this as a refresher course, or so you've done auditing, or you've done an auditing in another jurisdiction, you might go for senior, but everybody's likely going to start at auditor. And then you fill out some information, name and everything like that. You can hide it from the public if you don't want the public to see any of this. You fill out the information, you upload your certificate, and somebody will look at it, and then you'll be added to the list. Once you're on the list, you're able to log back in. I'll show you the list shortly. You're able to log back in, add information, change things as you go. But remember that email address, that web address, that's where you're going to want to go to register. So if we go there, the public can go there, anybody can go there, and they can search for an auditor. So if we click on that, you can search by their name or their organization or their required expertise. Now take that with a grain of salt, because that is self-populated. And so you could search, though, if you wanted somebody like, a motorcycle detailed design of jobs, particularly thinking about motorcyclists, and you could see who that filters out. And then you get the list, and the list, there's lots of people on the list, and you can go down and you can click on somebody. So I'll click on me here just to show what comes up. There we go. Click on that, and you see status active. It might be pending if you've just put in your application and somebody's reviewing it, or if you've uploaded some more information and somebody's reviewing it. But active, senior road safety auditor, status and contact information, relevant professional experience. And again, remember, you can hide this from the public. You don't need to show them that, but that's, if somebody's searching for an auditor, they might want to see, what's this person's experience. Auditor expertise. Now I have a lot of boxes ticked here, and been doing this for a long time, but I still refuse to tick the worksite traffic management plan boxes. I don't feel I have that expertise. But yeah, as I said, take all of that with a grain of salt. Regions available to perform work. That's a very Victorian thing. Just, if somebody only wanted to work in the east of Victoria. And then this is, in terms of past audits, all the public will see. The location of an audit, what your role was in the audit, senior auditor and team leader, the date it was undertaken, who the client was, and stage one, so that's a feasibility, other stages, feasibility, preliminary concept, detailed design, post-opening or construction site. And this one was particularly associated with a bike path. So that's all people will see, and it's just an indication of some of the audits that you've done. So you can see a copy of the certificate from the course that you've successfully completed. So you'll get have the PDF of this that you'll upload. So that's where I suggest you start. And I say that, and I don't really think it matters if you're in Queensland or you're in Tasmania or wherever. Just this is a good one to start, because as I say, it's reasonably easy to get on there. South Australia is a bit the same. It's a slightly different one. It's in the Department of Infrastructure and Transport. This is the old, it's the same page, but they've just changed their name. But and that one, it's about the same requirements as Victoria, but it's a slow you could download a Word document, fill it out, then you send it in, and then eventually they get around to updating their PDF that you download that's got a list. So South Australia, and this course has been approved by the South Australian government. Queensland, it's Department of Transport and Main Roads. Again, you download a form, you fill out the form, and then they list the auditors as well. This course is approved by them, but you need 5 years experience to just get a road safety auditor accreditation in Queensland. So you'll need to proof that you've been working in the industry for 5 years. The South Australian one is a PDF that you can click and download. They've got a different accreditation for heavy vehicle route assessors and safe system assessors as well. But I suggest you go to that brsa.com.au first. New South Wales has also approved this course, so I can show you their system as well if people have an interest in that. Actually, I'm just trying to remember whether we've got anybody from New South Wales in this course, but I'll do that very quickly because I think people might actually have an interest. Sorry. Here we go. So New South Wales is the Register of Road Safety Auditors, and it's a disclaimer like Victoria does, and then you can put in your details and register as an auditor. You can search for auditors, and they have a level 1, level 2, and a level 3. So you would start as a level 1, and again, it's a fairly easy entry as a level 1. To get to a level 3, which is not only the senior auditor, but the lead auditor, you need to have done a number of requirements. So you can then filter and search for an auditor. I wonder what happens if I just search with no filters. There you go, 826 auditors in New South Wales. So let's just see. Let's see if I'm on the list. I used to be. There you go. Can be a role auditor. Thank you. No, it doesn't bring me up to click on to see what else we can find. Okay. I'm a level 3 auditor in New South Wales. I'm just not sure how I actually find that. Oh, I'm logged in. That's why. Sorry. I'm logged in. So it's actually taken me into my portal with all my different audits that I've uploaded and they've verified and those sort of things. Anyway, any questions? Yeah, it's done it again. Logs me in automatically. How do you quote for an audit? I'm not sure 100% what you mean there, as in, how do you get work as an auditor? Or how do you, when you've been asked to do an audit, how do you go about writing a quote for it and you know, determining how much it would cost? If you want to clarify that, Mary, I can answer that. Well, actually, I'll answer them both. That's probably an easy way to do it. How do you get work as a road safety auditor? Well, it's like getting work in any other you know, field. You go and talk to people that might need audits. You advertise the fact that you are a qualified road safety auditor. You maybe want to partner with other organizations if you're trying to get experience and offer your services and assistance there. And then how do you actually quote in terms of what is going to be the cost of a road safety audit? Well, generally an audit is going to, you know, to take a roundabout design or something like that, it's probably going to be about 3 days worth of time for, you know, total, and you're gonna have a couple of people on the job. So totaled up to about 3 days for say a small roundabout design at a preliminary stage. A detailed design stage is probably going to add a bit more because you're pouring through a lot of paperwork. Yeah, so you can work that out with your rates, but that'll include the site inspections and the writing up and the like. That's generally about it for a, you know, isolated intersection with a roundabout. If you get a massive job like a, motorway upgrade or something like that, it can be big. 20 days worth of reviewing designs, writing up site inspections and all of that. And that's probably about it. What's the requirement for a level 1 auditor in New South Wales? Successful completion of this course is about it. Oh, okay. You have to press search manually. Sorry. Are there any issues with auditors working on projects in other states? Yeah. You have to be on the register of the state or territory that you are doing the audit in. That being said, Northern Territory doesn't have a register. Tasmania doesn't have a register. Northern Territory says we'll take anybody's. Any other jurisdiction's register will be fine. Tasmania tends to use Victoria's register. So all the Tasmanians are on the Victorian register. Tasmania uses quite a bit of Victoria's design guidance and those sort of things as well. Wonderful question in there from Sam. So there is an Austroads project to try to harmonise road safety audit accreditation process across Australia. There is, it's another example of just where our jurisdictions are very parochial. So you've seen there that there are these different requirements. Western Australia is just like completely kind of different in there, well, in many ways. So Western Australia has a completely different way that they run the training and only accept their own training course, and they have very, very stringent requirements for auditors. You have to complete their course. You are assigned a mentor that you work with for a year. You then have to do crash investigation course and these other courses. And what has ended up happening is that Western Australia has a very small pool of road safety auditors. They're very good. Don't get me wrong. Like, they are very good, but like it becomes a bit of a ridiculous situation where they're actually not doing many audits in Western Australia because they can't find them or afford them. Like the auditors. I used to be on their register for quite a while. I'm not on it anymore because I have just stopped keeping up to date with their continuing professional development requirements, which are intense. Like, it's a huge amount of work. But when I was on their register, like they would be getting me to fly to Western Australia from Victoria to do audits of local intersection roundabouts because they couldn't find anybody in the state who was available within the next month to do an audit, and the costs of the auditors there were like 10 times what it was going to be to fly me over with a team to do the audit. So it just became ludicrous. So if you go too hard in one direction, you start to. But why does that come back with harmonisation? Well, we've got the usual problems where Western Australia says we're not going to compromise on the quality of audits, and Victoria saying things like, well, we're not going to go to a Western Australian model because we like having lots of auditors who are able to do audits at a reasonable cost and be reasonably responsive in doing it. And if we go down that track, we're just going to lose all of that and audits will stop. So I'm not saying there's one way that's right or wrong. You've probably got to find a balance, but it's very hard to get jurisdictions to all agree to change their system in any direction, which is like me just explaining all of the challenges with harmonisation on pretty much everything we try and do across the jurisdictions. What are the triggers for completing a road safety audit project? Great question again. It depends what jurisdiction you're in. So in Victoria, for example, there's a policy for arterial roads, which basically says audits must be done for any project over, I think it's $200,000 total investment. So one audit must be done. Anything over $1 million has to have 3 audits. One has to be at design stage. Anything over 5 million has to have 5 audits. Each local council can have their own policy like that. Most jurisdictions have some sort of triggers like that any project over a certain size would be subject to a road safety audit. Plus, they can use road safety audits for other specific purposes. And then, of course, they use road safety audits on existing roads when they've got concerns, but that's more of a reactive process where things pop up. Keep your questions coming in as we go. They're really good to help clarify things, but what I'm going to get you to do shortly, or I'm going to split you off into some teams, and you are going to do a little bit of road safety auditing. So let me explain how this is going to work. So I'm going to put into the chat this design. It's a 3-page design set, I think. Yeah, you've got the lead in to the intersection. You've got the intersection, and you've got the exit of the intersection. But what you can see on this is that the black lines are what is going to be built. What is going to be built. The green lines sitting underneath, they're what is there at the moment, the current conditions. The red lines are services, like sewers or power lines or these sort of things. So you can sort of ignore that a little bit, but you know, in I suppose an audit, you'd be looking at a bit at that as well. But black lines are what is going to be built. So what I'm going to get you to do when I put you into a breakout room is, as a group, well, you're probably going to introduce yourselves and say hi, and you're going to then look at this design and you're going to say, if they build that, what crashes could happen? And then you're going to jot that down like you're writing a finding up. And I'm only going to ask you to find one thing, but I'm going to ask you to flesh it out properly. So I don't just want you to find one thing and just have a dot point and say, you know, this is the issue. Or, you know, traffic signals will be hard to see from this approach. Now, I'm not saying that's an issue. I'm just trying to think of something that probably isn't an issue, or you don't have enough information to work out. But, you know, that's not enough. If you decided you were concerned about the visibility of traffic signal pedestals on an approach, I would want you to say, you know, the auditors are concerned that there will be visibility issues for vehicles approaching the intersection when they're on Canterbury Road on the western approach. The concern is that a vehicle may miss the traffic signals, enter the intersection, have a side impact crash with a vehicle crossing, or potentially hit a pedestrian when crossing the road. Then, you know, this risk is exacerbated by the trees in the median, the angle of approach, the dynamic visual, whatever you've decided. And then you would risk rate that using the risk matrix. And then you would come up with a recommendation. A recommendation, install mast arms on the signals to provide greater view of the traffic signals. This is a supporting treatment. This in a safe system supporting treatment. So that's an example of what, you know, an output would be. Now, I just made that up because I don't think specifically you have enough information to really come up with that finding. It could be a finding. You'd want to know a bit more about the signal pedestals and the like. But there's plenty of issues that you will be able to find in this design. I'll jump into each of the rooms at some point, and if you're really struggling to find something, I will give you a few hints. But the other thing you're going to have available to you is this little map. So this is the actual site as it stands now. Now remember, you're not auditing the site as it is now, you're imagining it in the future. But you go and you look at what's currently there to understand, you know, what is the land use, what are the shops, where are the pedestrians crossing, how, you know, where are the power poles, how are the, you know, those sorts of things. And if you want to jump in and have a look at the site, you can click on one of these and, for example, hopefully this works. The site will come up after an ad for Qantas, it appears. Here we go. Oh, geez, we have an ad for something else. We are not sponsored by Skittles, by the way. So this would jump you into that spot where we clicked on the camera at that actual site. And you can just scroll around, you can have a look and you can say, oh, okay, that's interesting. So there's a pedestrian crossing there now. Okay, there's the IGA and there's the bakery there. Okay, so that's interesting to know. Okay, there's the roundabout. Looks like people queue up a bit there. We've got a car thing on the side there. There's trees, that's interesting. So you're getting a bit of a feel for the site, okay? So then you might do that and you might then jump back to your design and say, oh, okay, so we were standing here. Now what, you know, what changes are they making? And you may find an issue that way. So really, I'm only looking for one issue from the group, but well described in that way that we describe issues with what is the issue you're talking about? What is the crash that we're interested in that you think is going to happen because of this issue? What are any factors that may increase or decrease the risk associated with it? Is that speed? Is that it's going to be really bad at night? It's going to be, or whatever. And then, you know, are there any standards or guidelines? Now, of course, in our little practice here, you don't have time to go researching into standards and guidelines to see if there's any information. If you happen to know something off the top of your head, great, pop that in, but don't get too worried about that. Come up with a recommendation or multiple ideas and categorize those. So if I go back, yep, to that one, that's an example. I don't want anybody to use, any group to use that because I've said it already. I want you to find another one, and it's not probably, it's a bit hard to tell whether it would be an issue or not. But it's, you know, thinking about a vehicle approaching, can they see? You might find something else. Think about all road users. Think about how they're approaching from different directions. Now, there is in the learning management system sorry, I'm just going to a student so you're used to seeing what you will see. You can either get these from the learning management system, or I'm about to put them into the chat for you as well. And if you wanted to use a template, you could use this template here, which will, you're not handing this in and you're not being marked, but this might just guide you a little bit on, as a group, if you're either forgetting what to do or sorry, it's popped up on my other screen here. Let me drag that back in. So you can see here, that's what you've got here's your risk matrix because we want you to risk rate it. And you'll debate that as a team. Or do we think that's going to happen, you know, every 3 to 7 years or every 7 years? And what's the outcome going to be? Is it going to be serious? Is it going to be moderate? And then you could fill one of these out if you want, or you can just jot it down because we're only going to have somebody talk to it. Any questions on the task? No? Okay. Sounds like we're all pretty happy. Okay, let me try to pop these into the chat and then put you into some teams. So when you go in there as your team, you'll, yeah, as I say, introduce yourselves, then maybe somebody bring the design up on their screen. So I'm just putting it in the chat now. It's just uploading. And then see if you can find an issue and have a chat about it, risk rate it. So you're only going to have about 15 minutes at the most. I'm just putting that link to the videos if you wanted to look at those as well. And then we'll come back together and we will jump around to each room, or you'll be back in the group, but I'll go to each room. They can tell us their issue, sort of read out how they described it, their risk rating, any recommendations, and I'll make some commentary. The aim of this is to really help you in that assignment that you're actually going to be marked on, which is the one that you are currently probably doing or you've got on your list to do, which is your real one at a real site. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to do this. I will jump into each of the breakout rooms just to check in that you know what you're doing. And so, yeah, suggest when you get in there, turn your camera on, say hi to everybody, and somebody bring up the design, which I've now put into the chat. So I'm going to go to 5 breakout rooms and hopefully that'll pop up on your screen now. Randomly selected. Okay. There's a noise. Is that in the background for you? Oh no, it's gone now.
It's gone. There's a road speaker outside.
Oh, yep, that'll be it. Oh, good. Okay, that seemed to work. We've got them into the rooms.
Okay.
I'm just checking. Okay, one of the rooms, nobody's talking. 2 of the rooms, nobody's talking. I better go. I better go into that room. Oh no, somebody's talking in there now. That's good.
Room 3, that's very quiet.
Sorry?
Room 3. They might be looking at the picture.
Yeah, it looks like Adele is sharing her screen there, so that's good. At least they're doing something. Room 4, somebody's talking, but they haven't shared their screen. Room 5 seems to be doing well. Rob Leeson is talking there. Okay. All right. So I jumped through that start pretty quick. And I've put it into 5 because there are actually quite a few people in this course. So I forgot how many people we had in this course, which is good, but well, yeah, we both did it at the same time.
I think we did.
Okay. Team one back in, first in, ready to go. The others will be joining us. They're going to get kicked out of their room very shortly. Here they all come.
Where are we?
You've all been kicked out of your rooms.
Okay.
You get it done, boss?
Yeah, I'm just trying to finish it. I'm all good.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. Well, I think we got everybody back. That was great. I snuck into all the rooms there and had a little listen. I was very happy with the discussion all round. So well done. We're only going to spend a very short amount of time on this, whip around to each of the rooms, get your finding. So be prepared. Somebody will speak. And I'm just going to, I think I'll share the screen with the design up and you can just talk it through and I'll sort of point at what you're talking about. And I might as well just go in the room order. So we're going to start with room one, which was, I think, Emily and Cheston and Terry were in that one. So do you have somebody who can talk about your finding?
Yep, sure thing. I'm going to kick off talking about what we found, and then I guess anyone else can chime in if they'd like from our group. So we picked, our issue was that the existing signalised pedestrian crossing on the southern leg of the intersection has been removed and an alternative crossing location has been provided up at the signals. However, there's a lot of trip generators, including local businesses and bus stops on the southern leg of the intersection adjacent to the road, which creates a strong desire line across that southern leg of the road about in that location. Additionally, we noticed that the curb ramps on either side and the landscaping on either side of the road appeared to remain as per the existing. And the risk is that pedestrians may choose to cross sort of in that type of location outside of the designated crossings at the intersection due to it being a substantial detour away from the desire line. We rated this, and there's an increased likelihood of pedestrian vehicle crashes. We rated this as an extreme FSI rating. We thought that based on the speed being 60 k's an hour and pedestrian incidents, it would probably result in a fatal outcome. And due to the businesses and the bus stops, it's likely to be a relatively high volume of pedestrians and a high volume of cars. So we thought it was relatively likely as well. Our suggestions were to consider providing a signalised crossing in the same location as the existing and providing it as a raised crossing, which would be a primary treatment. Alternatively, you could just retain the existing crossing, which would be a secondary treatment. Alternatively, you could just make sure it's very clear, remove all of the existing infrastructure and make it clear that pedestrians are supposed to go up to the intersection and use the crossing that way. So that's also a secondary treatment, and that's it.
Wow. Okay. First of all, great, really good finding. And that is just wonderful road safety audit finding, because you're thinking about genuinely how are people going to use this infrastructure in the future? What are they actually going to do? And if they're all coming out of here and they want to go here, well, a lot of them aren't going to walk all of that way and they're just going to do that. So really good finding. Well done there. I like the wording of it. You worded it really well. You really clearly explained the issue, which was nice, and used some nice terms like pedestrian desire line, which was good to hear. The one thing I suppose you didn't do, and it's because probably in your mind it was absolutely obvious, you didn't tell me the crash that you're concerned with. Now, I know that you're concerned with pedestrian being struck by a vehicle, but I don't think did you specify that exactly? Now, you might think I'm being pedantic there, but it is good practice to really just spell it out. It's very clear to you. You were talking about pedestrians and pedestrians crossing, but I want to actually that this would increase the chance that a pedestrian will be struck by a vehicle. That one kind of obvious, but sometimes you find ones that you think are obvious, but the reader might go, are we worried about a bike hitting a pedestrian on the footpath, or are we worried about the bus hitting the pedestrian, or is you know, what is the specific thing we're actually concerned with? But then good recommendations and good categorization of the recommendations. So yeah, overall, I think it was really good. I think you're like this. I said to one of the groups, there is no right and wrong with risk rating. I do feel that that is slightly over risk rated for what I would do. And the reason for that is I often go backwards on risk rating, and I say, okay, if that's extreme risk and they're saying there'll be a fatal there every, and you said likely, which is somewhere around every year or the like, if they built that exactly like that and I came along, would I expect 5 pedestrian fatal crashes in the next 5 years at that location because of that specific issue? And I think when you context it like that, that's probably, that's a bit high in my opinion. Now, you know, as I say, that one, there's no right or wrong, but maybe just think about it in that context. But fantastic. Well done, team 1. What a great start. Let's go to team 2. That was David, Sam, Rob, and others. Did you have the same issue or something different?
No, I'll take it on because I think I dobbed myself in for being the scribe. So, yeah.
Thanks,
So
Rob.
the issue that we chose was the relocated bus stop on the sort of like, let's call it the western departure side. So you got two no, the other side there.
Yep, that one, yep.
There. Yep. So you've got the slip lane coming from the top of the page, turning in, and so obviously the driver will be looking more to the right, looking for oncoming traffic rather than the parked bus on the left. But also the added lane on the Canterbury Road leg, there's no sort of warning or whatever to merge right if there's a parked bus moving into there. So that was the two types of crash. So rear-ending into a parked bus there. So that was the main one there, but also just the flow-on effect of cars panicking to merge right to avoid that as well. But that's probably a lesser one. In terms of the level of risk, it's almost certain, probably because you've got the frequency of the buses stopping there, because it's a major stop there. But the consequence is probably sitting in the moderate. I've got to say, I wasn't necessarily happy going to a serious severity on that one, but it's still a high risk rating overall. And then, so in terms of recommendations, it would be a primary treatment is to retain the bus stop on the approach side of Canterbury Road over there, but also if it's to merge 2 bus stops, the one on the Montrose Road leg as well, rather than merging into 2. And the other, probably a secondary treatment would be to the raised platforms on the pedestrian crossing of the zebra crossings on that slip lane, but it would apply to all of them anyway. Probably good housekeeping there to do that. Or relocate the bus stop further to the right of the page. However, it actually creates additional problems with creating a much larger blind spot for the bus.
Okay. Another good finding in the sense that you've identified something that'll be in the design that's going to be retained in, you know, if they build it as it is, we're going to have problems there. Well clarified. Really good descriptions of the crashes you're concerned with. So hitting the bus, but also the merging, side swiping stuff that could happen as a result. So well clarified there. Risk rating, you've done well there. I tend to agree because we're thinking about vehicles hitting the bus. You may have, you know, clarified in there motorcycles or if bikes got mixed in, but I think from that primary one you were particularly thinking about of a vehicle hitting a bus and the side swipe, that it's well risk rated, or the way that I think industry would generally risk rate something like that. And then your recommendations, yep. So come up with a few ideas. I like that. And you've had a go at categorizing them. We'll continue to work on the categorization. Actually moving the bus stop back here would be a supporting treatment. Yes, you've removed that issue, but we still retain the possibility of somebody hitting the back of the bus or the merging associated. So we've got the crash type still existing at a location. It's a bit nuanced and a bit specific, so I wouldn't get too worried about that. So overall,
actually, the other thing we did discuss was to actually make that third lane or that left-hand lane a dedicated bus lane from where your mouse or through that part there, but that would negate the purpose of the whole works in its own right.
Yeah, that's right. And that was the last point I was going to bring up, which was that often as an auditor, you can make a recommendation that has other implications. And I really like to hear that from Rob there, where it was, you could move the bus stop down here, but it's going to have some other challenges. And as an auditor, we often find ourselves in that situation where we go, you do that and it's probably low risk, but it's not without risk. And so I will write that into the audit. So saying to them, you could move it down here, but really you're going to have to consider how are you going to manage all these other risks. And then the designer can get in there and try and work that out as well. So really good. Well done. Excellent stuff. Let's go to group 3, which I think was Adele, Daniel, AJ.
Hi, Ken. It's Daniel here. I think I've got to talk. So I was the one that was writing up the comments.
Okay.
Look, good news or bad news, we've got the same topic as the previous group in relation to that bus stop and vehicles and the risks associated with that. Yep. So look, it's very much same. So I'll run through it and we'll talk more about it. Yes, so the risk is that there are going to be some crashes due to that bus stop in the traffic lane there. So that's for the through vehicles, for turning vehicles, and also for vehicles looking to merge. The crash types we're looking at are rear end crashes, side swipe crashes, and no, I think that's it. And I think, look, from a standards point of view, I think there are some guidelines for transport facilities that could be used. However, I don't know that, again, with the limited time that we had, we haven't quite had a chance to look at that in more detail, but I'm not so sure that there'll be too much guidance there on that. But anyway, that's worth looking at in further detail for our assignment or something. From the risk rating perspective, as you sort of said, that's always a bit, everyone will have a bit different ratings and whatnot. I think we have a possible likelihood. I think the previous group had a much more certain likelihood, and we've got a more serious consequence or severity of serious. And I think they had moderate. So interesting, but interesting. We're still both on the high scale, I think.
Same risk, yeah.
Were we? Oh
I think you're both
we
got
are,
the same risk coming at a different way, yeah.
Yeah, but we are actually on the right hand side of that line in terms of getting into that fatal and serious injury side of things. So again, the recommendations are that the bus stop also get relocated, and without delving too much more into it, the next step would have been to look at possible locations.
Now, as an auditor, you don't necessarily need to specify to them where to relocate it. You can leave that to them with all the challenges that they'll have in, working on, there's other issues, or we can't do this. So you can be open to letting them work all of that out, or if you do have some good ideas, that can be helpful. So did you do any categorizing of that recommendation, or didn't get to
Yeah, not bad.
No, we didn't get there, sorry.
I'm just having a 50 service knowledge training.
that? Okay, it's just a forgotten to
Yeah.
mute. I will mute that person. Okay, no, that's all right. Good. Another good find. So found the same issue. So that's good. People are identifying that one. Again, really, I like that. Lots of identification of different factors that increase or change the risk, which is good. One thing, I suppose, the other group, and I didn't mention it, sort of combining issues and where would you stop? So like they talked about raising the pedestrian crossing. Now, that's good. I think that's a good thing to do for a number of different issues. It may reduce this risk as well. I like to be fairly clean cut, and I will talk about the particular issue associated with this bus stop and crashes. And I will talk about pedestrian issues here. It may be that I say, when I'm talking about pedestrian issues, raise the crossing. Then I'm talking about bus issues, and I would maybe say, and if you refer back to my finding number 1, the raised crossing there will reduce this risk as well. So you're kind of, presenting all of that. Well done. Let's go to our second last group. So we had Alistair, Mary, and others. Does somebody there want to talk?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk. It's just a repeat of the previous 2 groups.
Okay.
We had, regarding the risk rating, we actually had it as serious and possible to unlikely, and that's because rear-ending a bus with unrestrained passengers or passengers who have just entered the bus can lead to some pretty serious injuries. Obviously, the vehicle user, the car drivers, are going to be okay in the car, but yeah, the passengers unrestrained are at serious risk. And the only other thing we had to add was a primary treatment, which was actually to indent the bus bay.
Yep.
Obviously, there's not a lot of room, but in the best world, you would look to indent the bus bay to reduce that risk.
Okay. Good. Yeah, so a different idea. And you can see that risk can be reduced when you've identified an issue like this in a number of different ways, can't it? And that's where it's going to be a bit of thinking for the designer and the project manager on this. And we as auditors can provide our thoughts and our contribution. In the end, they'll work out how they think they can best do that. So good. Well done. Good finding. I like the fact that you were thinking not just about car passenger safety, but also bus passenger safety, and no doubt other road user safety as well, because that's important. We're thinking holistically. Great. Thank you. Let's jump on to our final group. Ash, Luke, Sunny, and others.
Hey,
Amos.
hello. Hey, yep. Let me share my screen so we've already done some.
Okay. Can you share your screen? Is that possible? I don't know.
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. Let's do it. Oh, good. Yeah, here it comes.
Can you see it? Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yep.
So we've identified the issue on the westbound approach. So we think that the deceleration lane here is not enough. So given that the design speed is 80k, we think as part for a table 5.2, it should be at least 100 meter with a minimum of 70 meters. So that's not enough. So we're thinking like there may be rear end crash, and also if there is not enough room for decelerated, there would be a pedestrian vehicle conflict, and also maybe vehicles can hit on the posts and roadside furnitures and whatnot. And the likelihood is we're seeing I think it's going to be fatal, because if it's a paired vehicle conflict, it's going to be fatal. And also we are thinking maybe it's a likely it's going to happen Q1. Yep. So yeah, that's what we were thinking. So what are the recommendations? So increase the deceleration length, relocate this bus stop further away. yeah, I think that's all we talked about. Anything else, Sonny or Luke?
Done well there. Anything to add from the others?
I think that's all good. That's sort of where we got to in the end with the limited time.
Yeah, and also we raised actually the other issue, like everyone discussed it, that's actually passed up on these one lane checklist, that this bastard is too close to the intersection, but we didn't talk too much about it. But yeah, that was another issue.
Did you manage to get time to discuss the either primary or supporting treatment aspect to that?
Nah, I don't think
No,
so.
didn't
Did
get
we?
to that. That's okay.
No,
But,
no.
So extending the deceleration lane it would be a supporting treatment. The reason it's supporting is because we could still have a vehicle enter that at speed and hit pedestrians or the like, or have the rear ends that you're mentioning, because you're relying just on them, making those decisions rather than anything physical to slow them down or the like. Really good, good finding. Well done. It was nice to see a different one there. A good example there of where you've identified an issue and there are standards and guidelines to back it up, and you did that nicely and you knew them and you presented it, and that's fine. I also remind you from the very start that we also, even if there's there wasn't a standard and guideline to back that up, but you were concerned with it, you still report it. Or even if it met standards and guidelines and you said, hang on, I'm still concerned about this, you can report that in your audit. But really good one. Well done. Thank you all, and really good work. You can see how when you're doing your actual audit, your one on site, and you're going to put it in to be marked, we're looking for, as the groups are beautifully done, what is the issue? Describe it well. What is the crash that could happen? What is that, any of those factors that are increasing the risk or decreasing the risk? And what, if any, standards or guidelines that you know of? Again, we're not going to take marks off if you didn't know that a standard or guideline existed in the mock audit, but and then your risk rating and your recommendations and the primary or supporting with those. So this is basically the end of the course. I'm just going to show you how you will finish this course off. You will make sure you've done all of the quizzes and you've done your research assignment. And I'm going to email out the prize winners. We had so many great assignments, and I'll email out some prize winners. You're going to complete your audit. You're going to upload it. You've got then to complete a feedback form. And after you've done all of the quizzes, you've uploaded your assignment, it's been marked, you've passed, your certificate will appear. You will then, once that happens, it'll trigger the sending of a pack to you, which will have a hard copy of the certificate as well, and any prizes you've won along the way. And you'll get that at some point when Australia Post decides to get it to you. So that's how we finish it off. Of course, at any time, get in contact if you need some assistance, if you want to talk through your audit, you need more information on anything, or you've got any other things that are coming up in road safety that you want to know if anybody's done any work in the area, or if I know of anything, I'm always happy to try and share stuff with you and help out. You would have seen like an audit like that. That's a real design. We didn't fabricate that. That was designed by some very good designers, very experienced, and they have challenges at that site. Absolutely. And that's sort of what they've come up with. And so you can see that those issues that you identified pretty quickly, they exist, they're real, and they will come up in designs. And your role as auditors is to get in there and assist and try to absolutely minimize risk as much as we can. So the risk rating, always try that little trick of thinking backwards. So once you've got to a risk rating, say, okay, we think it's that risk. So we're going to have fatalities occurring every 3 months at this site because of that specific issue. You might reconsider and go back and say, actually, well, we know we tragically have 30 fatalities in Victoria for pedestrians per year. And that's across the whole state with all of those intersections, all of that. Is it reasonable we think that we're going to be, building something and that we're going to have such a massive amount of pedestrian death and serious injury at that location? Probably high, over risk rated, but you don't want to ignore an issue, because sometimes they will build something that is absolutely horrific, and we've got to be able to pick that up. Final words from me. It's auditing is a fantastic thing to do, and I really encourage you to get out there and advertise the fact that you are able to assist with audits. Talk to people. If you're on social media, feel free to put your certificate up and say, I completed the course. I'm an auditor, and I want to, I'm excited to get into auditing. I also feel we have an enhanced responsibility as road safety auditors to be pointing things out when we see them out there on the road network that are presenting risk to our community, high levels of risk to our community. I'm pretty sure, and all of you were passionate about road safety before, but take that as an extra little step up and say, okay, I can now see things through a particular lens of where risk is being presented to our community. And I'm going to tell the local authority as I see these things, or in other projects as I see them, or encourage people to do road safety audits. And we can really continue to build an army of people with a lens of road safety, looking critically at new projects or existing roads, and we'll be able to lessen the risk for our community. So thank you for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedules to do this. I think that's the way we are going to get some big gains, by getting lots of passionate and intelligent people like yourselves out there looking for risk to our community and looking for ways that we can lessen that. Keep in contact if you've got any questions, if you have any challenges, but otherwise, thank you so much for your time, and good luck with your auditing. Bye.